Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. Man, it is really nice in this world. Very peaceful, and it makes me very happy. I could sit here and just listen to Avalon all day, you know? It's just really nice and peaceful to listen to. Wait, I want to put my beanie on first. Boom. Beanie. Look at that. That was impressive, wasn't it? No, not really. Anyways, what am I going over today? What's the topic of this video? What are we doing? Because you're probably interested, I'm interested, all that jazz. Alright, let's get into it. Today, I'm going to be going over why I think objectively, and I mean, yeah, just objectively, why Avalon is the best world in Wizard101. Now, I would like to say, it's not going to be everyone's favorite world. I know that, you know, objectively, the best doesn't mean your favorite, right? Like, what's a example? For some reason, the first example I thought of was MCR albums. So if you know MCR, maybe this will relate to you. Like, the best album objectively is probably The Black Parade, but my favorite is Three Cheers, if that makes sense. I can't think of anything else, to be honest. So we're just gonna move on. I can't think of any other examples, but the reason why I think that this is the best world in the game, and there's a few reasons, are those reasons particularly are what set it aside from other worlds. And I would like to say that the other worlds that I think are the better worlds all share these common traits. So let's start with the first one, and that is setting. It's an interesting setting, right? Already, knights, dragons, you know, that kind of stuff. Fantasy, right? Everyone loves fantasy. Maybe, well, maybe not everyone, but most people love fantasy. And I can tell you, as a kid, you know, I grew up watching, you know, the knight, the dragon, all that kind of thing. Not a specific show. I keep doing these, like, weird side notes. I keep saying things and then pausing and adding something to it. I'm going to try to stop doing that, alright? We all looked at and read, you know, stories of dragons, knights, medieval stuff, and I think that it's a very American thing to look at medieval and fantasy settings and find it to be very interesting. Also, a lot of stories I read as a kid. Was I just going to repeat the same thought? God, I am very scatterbrained today. I am very sorry. Right? The setting in of itself is good, but a setting isn't complete without a soundtrack. And let me tell you, the soundtrack in this world is one of the best soundtracks that they've ever written, which is crazy. Because let's be honest, just about every single Wizard101 soundtrack is top tier, 10 out of 10, right? And I think that this is one of their best soundtracks. They managed to capture the medieval essence very well, and that has to do with the instruments they're using. You know, there's like a mandolin in there, like a fiddle, something like that. I don't know. They're doing something. You know, there's a flute. We love to see it. But I'm gonna move on to the main thing, and this is I put this in big bold letters of what I think every world needs, and what makes Avalon the best world is its pacing. Pacing is super important. And what I mean by that is consistently throughout the entire world, having the quests feel like not only are they are important, but there's, you know, not feeling like there's these long periods where you're, excuse me, sorry, I just like died inside. Not having these long periods where you feel like nothing's going on. And I want to say, look at some people's least favorite worlds. Azteca, Celestia, Chrysalis. Let's look at those. Azteca, the entire world feels like a long slog, not just a single part of it, and it makes everyone really hate it. Celestia has this problem where it speeds up and you have a good time, and then you hit a wall, and then you slow down, and you just keep hitting that wall over and over again until eventually you break through, and you're in Safaria, right? And that particularly is in Crustacean Empire. Crustacean Empire takes like an hour and a half to do, which is crazy. That's one street, and it's probably about 20% of the entire world's time, which is a bit crazy. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the gist, right? The pacing is really bad in that world. Chrysalis, in my opinion, has one of the worst pacings because part 1 is so inconsistent. Part 1, you'll have one street that you'll have a good time with, and then the next 3 streets are like really agonizing, and then you have a good time again, and then it goes to part 2, and it's pretty fun throughout, but then you get to the hive, and then it feels like you did the entirety of part 1 and 2 again in Chrysalis. It's just kind of crazy, you know? And I think that worlds like Avalon and we'll take my 3 favorite worlds right now. We have Avalon, Mushu, which Mushu, the pacing's a bit off, I'll admit. It's not the best. Let's pick a different world. Let's pick Avalon, Marleybone, and Polaris. Marleybone, in particular, has a decent pacing because, and this is a strong because, you're constantly getting fed new information and getting taken to new parts of the world, right? And it feels like an interesting... It feels like you're a detective in a case, which is exactly what they want it to be, right? Is you're trying to get to... You need to get to the Croconomicon, and to get that, you need to go into the Royal Museum. To get that, you need to save Marleybone first. And the entire detective case, finding Baxter, all that... It's paced really well, right? It's set in like 3 acts, which is Digmore Station, Scotland Yard, and then the Big Ben area. And I think it's done really, really well. I think that Marleybone in particular is really good in that, and it's not a long world either. You can do it in 2 hours if you want to. And on average, it would probably take about 3.5. Next, I'm going to go over... what was it? Polaris is a really good world as well, and the reason for that is that it manages to capture your attention, right, and continue to hold your attention. It starts with the whole revolution thing, and it's immediately fast-paced, really nice, really fun quest line, and then, you know, you think it's going to start slowing down again after the revolution, and it kind of does for a little bit, and then boom, the Arcanum, and all that, right, and it just keeps taking you back in. You come back from the Arcanum, you're like, oh boy, and then boom, the rat, right? And it has really, really good pacing. But why is Avalon better? Because I did say that Avalon is the best world objectively, and I think that's because throughout, in every street, they made it so that there is good pacing, and there's a good amount of bosses. I'd say it's definitely one of the longer worlds, so I'm not going to say that, like, if you want a shorter world, this isn't going to be your favorite world. But at the very least, I think that the pacing is really well. They introduce bosses at a steady and plentiful pace. You can see here, this street has 9 bosses in it. Most streets average about 6 to 7, which is actually pretty high for most worlds. And then also, there are these shrines that you need to repair so that you can eventually become a Knight of the Silver Rose and then wield the Sword of Kings to defeat Morganth. And these are almost evenly spread out throughout the quest line, and you constantly feel like you're getting closer and closer to your goal. And you're really just having a good time, you know? You go through the beginning, start saving the world, and eventually reach the point where you meet Gwendolyn, and you start reuniting the Knights of the Silver Rose. Then you get to the second half of the world, where you're actually trying to find King Artorias. I almost called him King Arthur. It's so weird. Sometimes I accidentally call him King Arthur, and sometimes I accidentally call King Arthur King Artorias. Really strange. Anyways, but I think the second pacing is really good, and then the ultimate climax where you fight the Pendragon and find out that it's King Arthur transformed. You don't find out, but you administer the antidote. All that. Really, really good. Obviously, I've complained in the past about the Sword of Kings sucking. That it does suck, but sometimes, you know, you just gotta deal with it. So, that's really my analysis on why I think Avalon's the best world. I've gone over some different reasons, but ultimately, to wrap it back up, the pacing is really good, the setting is really good, the music's really good. You tie that all together, boom, you have a really good world. I am curious if people are going to agree with me or disagree with me, because I actually don't really know people's opinions on Avalon all that much. I know that Azteca is universally hated. A lot of people don't like Mushu, but I do like Mushu. And I think that's all I really know. Chrysalis, people have mixed feelings about, all that kind of stuff. But I don't really know people's opinions on Avalon. Do you like it? Did you hate it? What do you feel? Did this video change your opinion at all? I think it's just the questline in of itself is really, really fun. And after doing Avalon again recently, I can say that my opinion hasn't changed. Every time I do Avalon, I enjoy it, despite the fact that I've done it about 10 times now, you know? You'd think eventually I'd get bored of it, but I really don't. I find Avalon to be nice. So, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, drop a like at the sub button. If you didn't, drop a dislike and unsub. That's a bit sus of you, but, like, you can if you want. That's going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.